Hey there everyone! I recently picked up the original Kirby's Dream Land trilogy of games, and so I thought I'd do a little bit of a retrospective review of the three, one by one. Let's start this off with the original Kirby game. Enjoy! This is Kirby's Dream Land. Kirby's Dream Land is a 2D platformer released in 1992 for the original Game Boy. Dream Land stars the now iconic Kirby, a lovable pink puffball, and this game was his first appearance. Kirby's Dream Land was created by HAL Laboratory, with development being led by Masahiro Sakurai. Sakurai is also the man responsible for the Smash Bros. Series. By the way, this footage is in colour because I'm playing via the Game Boy player. Some sort of witchcraft is making Kirby look pink with red shoes, as his final design's colours hadn't been decided upon by this point. He was even shown as white on the Western box art. I'd be interested to find out how the Game Boy player knows to display him in these colours, but that's research for another day. The plot kicks off with Dreamland's food supply being stolen away by King Dedede, and Kirby heading to Dedede's castle to retrieve the food and save the day. Here's a small piece of trivia for you. Kirby's name actually was chosen out of Nintendo's respect for the American lawyer John Kirby, who defended Nintendo in the 1984 case over whether Donkey Kong was a trademark infringement of the King Kong characters and plot. Nintendo eventually won the case, and later the character was named Kirby to honour the lawyer who'd helped them out. Gameplay in Kirby's Dream Land is very straightforward, and involves moving through the game's 5 stages, avoiding all obstacles in the player's way in order to eventually reach Dedede. Each stage is packed with creative environments and gameplay spins. One boss changes gameplay into that of a side-scrolling shooter, for example, and another section has you descending instead of moving the typical upwards or to the right of most areas, which actually adds a surprising amount of challenge. Kirby himself has a few abilities which set themselves apart from the platformer's standard fare. For starters, Kirby has the ability to inflate himself and fly indefinitely. This allows the player to float over most obstacles, which acts as something of a crutch for beginners. It's very slow moving around this way, so even though it might be the easiest way of getting past difficult sections, it's not entirely fun compared to the excitement of covering the whole vertical space of the screen. Kirby also has the ability to inhale enemies and spit them out as a projectile. In later games this was extended to being able to absorb the specific power of certain enemies he swallowed, but in the original game he could only swallow or spit them out. There's a lot of creativity to how this sucking ability works. For example, when inflating to float around, a press of the B button makes Kirby let out a puff of air which simultaneously makes him fall to the ground, as well as launch this blast out forwards as a projectile. This can be a useful attack as enemies are not always around to spit out. Dreamland is a short game, roughly 30 minutes long on the default difficulty, assuming few deaths. This length was most likely due to the cart not having a save function. HAL Laboratory wanted to make a game that casual players would have no trouble completing even in one sitting. The game has unlimited continues on top of the limited lives, and restarts place you at the beginning of each stage. For those who want more of a challenge, the game was given an extra mode which can be chosen through the start menu with a button input. Extra mode rejigs the entire game, adding variations to enemies and bosses, as well as adding new enemies altogether. Extra mode offers a real challenge to players that breeze through the main difficulty setting, and due to the game having no save option, this difficulty setting can be accessed right away. For those who just want the challenge straight up, which is the thoughtful decision. In case you haven't noticed yet, Kirby's Dream Land looks absolutely charming. Sprites have a lot of character to them, and environments have a really imaginative aesthetic to them. Kirby himself is super cute, and though his design visually is pretty simplistic, it still lends itself well to the game. His little dance after a tough fight and pre-staged title screens act to give him a very endearing quality. The music in Kirby's Dream Land is also exceptionally good. There are some amazing 8-bit tracks on display here. Green Green's, the music for the first stage for example, is a standout chiptune from the era. This also marks the beginning of the Kirby series' awesome track record of catchy soundtracks. I don't really see the lack of difficulty in the default adventure to be a negative, and so my main criticism of the game is with one aspect of the controls. The way the controls work is pretty straightforward. A makes Kirby jump and B makes Kirby use his suck ability. This is all good, but the float ability is tied to up on the D-pad, not A. So to float upwards you have to press a button separate to the jump button, and making this float tied to a direction on the D-pad means that accidental inflation in tense moments leads to a lot of unfair damage. To some extent this is on me and my mispresses, but I do feel that having the float work like a double jump by repeatedly pressing A would have worked far better. Luckily, this is actually how floating is designed in later games in the series. All in all, Kirby's Dream Land is a greatly enjoyable little game. As well as this, it's a great starting point for the long-running Kirby series. The game is utterly charming and still plays very well to this day. Thanks for watching, please be sure to tune back in for parts 2 and 3. See you later.